And then the handler's not really sure either. Like, I can't tell you the number of handlers where, well, what is your indication? Or like, what are you waiting for that tells you this is what I'm going to pay my dog? And you get a range of answers. And if you're not super clear on what that picture is, then how is your dog going to be clear on that?
The dog goes over there and kind of starts to like, I think it might be here. And then, like you said, the air's flowing, things are going on. As a handler, what should I do? If my dog doesn't give me a clear indication, but I kind of have an idea and the dog kind of has an idea, what do you want the handler doing in that situation?
Welcome to Police Canine Radio. I'm Gregg Tawney, with me, Rich Hartman. Rich, what's going on?
Just got back from Central Indiana.
Beautiful this time of year.
Okay.
I don't know. Was it nice?
It was.
I've never been.
It was green.
Oh,
it was green.
I'll take green.
We
were way brown out here.
Yeah, it stays green, but there's thunderstorms and water and things, humidity and all
Scary.
that. So there's a trade-off. Out there with Canines United, that went well. I think we had over 50 dogs. We had a guy that drove up from Texas, wanted to be part of that, which was pretty impressive. Had some really good handlers that came down from Michigan, some guys from Ohio, Kentucky, and then obviously most of the handlers were from Indiana. And I think my biggest feedback after doing that is if you're a handler and somebody told you to do something, know the reason why. If I say, hey, like, why do you have that choke chain on? And why is it on in that location? And, why did you choose that tool? If your answer is because that guy who's been doing it for a long time told me to do it, go one step deeper and be like, hey, boss, why? Like, why?
That's the way we've always done it.
Always done it, yeah, because that can take you into a bit of a rabbit hole. Because then maybe initially the information you got was good. Maybe it was a good tool to use. Like, I don't love choke chains, but say the tool's working good for your dog, but then somebody hands you their choke chain from their old dog because that dog's retired, and now you get their equipment, and their dog had a 5-gallon head, and your dog is a 50-pound Malinois. Like, I'm still using the tool that Bob told me to use, and it's sliding
goes
down
around the waist.
It's hanging around the dog's, shoulder blades, and placement is kind of weird. You have an e-collar up here and a choke chain down here and a bunch of stuff in between. Just know why you're doing things. If you're using a toy to do some training, cool. Know why you're using the toy. If you're using some food to do some training, good. Know why you're doing it. If somebody told you not to use those things and it's against the rules, don't use any toys, don't use any food, say, okay, boss, why?
I sense a story.
I'm not going to get into it. No, it didn't go well. I definitely had a strong opinion. And
what?
I know it happens, but I think the biggest thing is just know why you're doing things. It might be the best information you've ever received from a trainer or a supervisor, but if you don't understand why, then you're just doing it because somebody said so, and that can lead you down a bad path. And we talked about it earlier today. Oddly enough, not all dogs are the same. So the tool and the equipment and the training and the information that I provide this dog may not be the key recipe for this dog over here. And usually it's not, right? Like every dog is a little different.
Yeah, I think the conversation we had is there are never always and never nevers.
Right. Like those trainers scare the heck out of me, right?
Yeah.
Like if somebody spends a whole lot in always and never land, man, I don't feel like you're really a dog trainer, because if you've been doing this long enough, the only thing is like never assume that it's always. That's not going to happen because they're always changing. And their dog, a dog, if I have a dog on a leash and then I hand it to you, it might have a completely different personality and work mindset because it's now attached to you. It's not the same dog anymore. Things have to change and you have to be able to morph with it. So that whole always never thing is
well, we're never ever all going to agree in the industry, which is fine, right? And we even have agencies that train with us or come up with us and train with us for a little bit. And I'm like, well, how are you running your collars? We're doing it this way. We do it differently. That's fine. Just understand the reasons why you have it the way you do. Because really there's pluses and minuses. We got in this discussion before, like pinch collar on a patrol dog. Well, there's times I'm going to do it. There's times I'm not going to do it, right? And it kind of goes to your conversation.
Like you love the First Saver. I do love the First Saver. You explain very well why you love the First Saver. It makes sense, and it works for a lot of dogs. I like the Dominant. It works good for me. Both of them kind of serve the same purpose.
Yeah, and that's okay.
A little different. Yeah, but know why. You know exactly why you use the First Saver, and I know why I prefer the Dominant. And if somebody asks, like, what should I use? I always say, Gregg likes the First Saver. These are the reasons why he likes it. This is how it works. You can go up and you can hook your clip onto it. You don't have to be terribly correct, right? You can just grab something because there's a bunch of links that go around it. It makes it easy when you're in the shit to grab the right thing. I like the dominant. It has a little less play. So when I need to take the air away from the dog, it's quick, right? Like, but we both have an understanding. So if you're going to pick one of those, pick it based on
Your
information, not because
Yeah, your
Gregg
dog.
said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Anyway.
All right.
And you were, speaking of doing things differently and seeing different groups, you just got back from Adler Horse. You got a selection
did.
day and you got to kind of hang around a bunch of different agencies during that whole fun melee of selection.
Yeah, I got to get on the department plane.
Ooh.
Felt like a VIP to fly down to
It is
go
nice
select
not going
dogs.
to the
Oh,
airport.
hell yeah, it's nice. I avoided a 7-hour drive to beautiful Riverside.
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing against Riverside. I'm sure it's lovely this time of year, but the drive down there through the Central Valley, if nobody's done it, is just dull and
Well,
boring.
I'm sure
and
driving through LA this week would have been enjoyable either.
no, whole nother topic.
You might have been stuck there for a couple hours.
Yeah. Lucky I didn't have to hit the 101. But yeah, so we got to fly down, which was cool. But there was probably 20 agencies selecting maybe 30 dogs. And you would think that everybody be competitive, but I found actually the opposite. Like guys from Fresno PD were helping out, like, oh, I know that dog, this and that. And if you're going to put that dog back, we'll take that dog back. LAPD, those guys were really cool. Riverside was down there. It almost feels like, just the camaraderie within the industry. It wasn't this big competition thing. It was like we're all trying to help each other out. We're all doing the same job. And that's what I love about this community. If we can just separate ourselves from our tribalism and just kind of work together because we all have the same freaking hard job.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Anything else? And are you in a basic right now?
Finishing up one.
Finishing up one.
Yeah.
And then
This week.
This is the last week?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. Got a detection thing going on, which brings us to this episode.
Brings us to this
Yeah.
episode. And
Yeah. Week 2 of a detection course with 7 dogs for a basic as well.
all explosives?
No.
Everything.
Those are the dope dogs. And we got this one dumb giant schnauzer in the group that you would, again, breedism, right? Like, don't judge a book by its cover. The giant schnauzer's doing amazing. And you have a special interest in this dog.
That was my personal dog, and he at some point turned the corner, and I had a conversation. We love that dog, obviously, and I had a conversation with my wife, and I'm like, man, this dog needs to really work. Like, obviously, I worked him a lot, but he needs a real job. Like, I felt guilty having him at home because he's like, hey, like, I need more than this.
Yeah, he's cool.
And I tell pet owners all that, like, hey, your dog needs a job. Like, you need to give it something to do. And then I found myself in that category. I'm like, I'm not doing this dog any favors by having him do a place in my house while I'm watching Netflix, right? So, like, we gave him a job, and he's killing it.
It's awesome. If you're watching YouTube, we'll flash some video of Boogie, your buddy, doing some detection now.
So
But
speaking of
doing
detection,
really well.
our next guest,
Jump into it.
knee deep in the detection world. I met Natalie initially in Las Vegas. Kylie, one of our trainers, and I went down to Las Vegas to do, it was kind of a combination of puppy raising with Mike Nesbitt and Cognition and detection. And it was you and Cameron and Mike Nesbitt all together. That was really fun. That was a good group, and had a good time with that. And knew then that you were the smart one in the bunch. Like, all the sciencey, intelligent stuff was coming from her, and all the bro dog talk was coming from them. And I was like, hey, she's the one to watch. And then obviously you're still knee deep in this whole
Still
detection
doing it,
world,
yep.
yeah, and doing it. And I ordered your class, and I'm a couple classes into that. And I've already hit you up on like, hey, this was a little different than what
Yeah.
you were doing when we were in person, so we can talk about that.
Sure.
But how about you introduce yourself and let us know
Yeah.
kind of how you ended up in this world and what you're doing now.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me. My name is Natalie Morris. I started really in the pet dog training world, I guess about 15 years ago now. I pretty much did it straight out of high school. I was doing it a little bit in high school, and then that was like my first job. Really got into the behavioral side of things, but I was a really young trainer. I gave way too much of myself. I didn't charge enough. I let free makeup lessons and, half an hour privates turn into hours and things like that. Just not good boundaries as like a baby trainer. And I really burnt myself out on the pet dog training side. And then started doing sport detection with my personal dogs, who I had one little dog that just absolutely loved it. And I was kind of like, this is okay. I mean, the beginning stages I still feel like can be a little boring on the sport dog side. Like, it's very repetitive, and the dogs aren't always as bought in as they will be later on. But this dog I had was just so into it, and it made me get really into it because she loved it so much. And I started competing with her, and she did well, and then kind of started teaching it to other people, got super into it. A couple training friends that I would do a lot of stuff with got into it, so that kind of became our little group of just spending time problem solving and just kind of making up methods as we went. The sport side of things typically starts in a very pairing heavy setup with a lot of focus on the hunt, which I like that aspect, but you don't teach an indication typically. Everything's about change of behavior, and you're just reinforcing when they sniff at it and that kind of thing. And as a trainer already at that time, I really wanted something a little bit more precise, something with a little more pizzazz to it, something that looked a little prettier too.
Yeah.
And so we started doing indication work. I was using a marker for a long time, but always direct reward. So actually, my Border Collie, which I got shortly before I started working with Cameron, was actually my first indirect reward dog, where I would mark and then he'd get paid with me. So that was pretty kind of my next, I guess, evolution in my detection work. And then when I started interning with Cameron, which was really lucky, he happened to move to Vegas, when I was getting really heavy into trying to get into the professional detection world. Cool to be on the podcast because I listened to you guys a bunch when I was trying to connect better with the working dog world. I knew a lot of working dogs from the, sport side of things, but it's quite different, I'm sure, as you guys know, than getting handed a totally green dog that's a wild child that's been in a kennel and they've been spinning it up as much as possible so it looks good on selection tests. And so that was oh, okay, this is what I'm getting into when you're getting those kind of dogs in that don't have, there's no obedience. Your communication system is not fleshed out at all. So you're building all of that stuff from the ground up. But I loved it, and I kept doing it, and I'm very knee-deep into detection now. I got my first Mal from Michael Ellis a year and a half ago, and so I'm learning some of the bite work stuff, which is really fun and just kind of different for me and interesting. But obviously the detection is where my passion is. It's the stuff that keeps me up at night thinking about it. So
once again, this episode is brought to you by Inukshuk Professional Dog Food. There's only one brand of dog food that we use and recommend. That is Inukshuk Professional Dog Food. Inukshuk was created for working dogs and continues to be the top choice for all working dogs, from hunting dogs to sled dogs, and of course, police canines. Whether it be detection or patrol canines, visit inukshukpro.com, or you can find all of the formulas on chewy.com. That place over there, that Michael Ellis hub, is turning into. So we just had Dr. Melanie on. She's obviously doing a bunch of stuff there. Mm-hmm. You're there. Cameron's there. Michael's there. Is Forrest there?
He's back and forth. He's doing a whole travel on the road thing right now. But hopefully he'll be up at some point. He's kind of my main decoy right now, so my dog is hoping he'll be back.
Mike's like a cult leader. He's out there with his hair and his tie-dyed shirt, and he's bringing in all the dog people and lighting candles and stuff.
He definitely.
I feel like we're gonna move there soon.
You should come on down. Michael has done an amazing job of bringing people together and building a really supportive community. There's nothing better as a dog trainer than waking up and seeing trainers like Jesse or Michael or Forrest out there helping somebody with their puppy. Not because they're trying to, it's not a formal session, or just because everybody wants everybody else to succeed and to have, the best training possible. And that's such a great environment to be in. It's always great to be in an environment where you're the low man on the totem pole as far as experience and skills. I love that, right? Where you can really soak that in, and you start getting better just through osmosis, right?
Yeah, and the expectations are low, right? I'm just a new guy, just teach me. I don't know what's going on, help me out. I think it's really, and I mean, we're huge fans of Michael Ellis, and I know not everybody across the country has kind of figured that all, but
yeah,
I mean, I started my whole pet training pathway by watching Michael Ellis DVDs. I feel like
that's so many trainers.
DVDs, those are a little round thing you put in.
Yeah. I go back to VHS back in the day with Ivan and all that stuff. Yeah. But let's play it again.
But it was cool because you didn't have to go hunt down a seminar, that was groundbreaking to be able to get somebody's information right here on your own TV, right? So now I have a seminar in my living room, and I think I bought the $850 set. It was just a stack of DVDs, and I just my wife was like, "What are you doing?" And who's that guy? is he all right? Like, is he living in a Volkswagen van somewhere? And I'm like, no, he just looks like that. He just doesn't like messing with his hair, But
He's a goddamn dog genius.
yeah,
just
I'm
watch.
like, just watch. You're gonna learn
Yeah.
stuff, And we still to this day,
For sure.
a big chunk of what we do.
Well, the whole
and-
marker thing for
Yeah,
me
like
was through
Yeah.
Mike Ellis. Like
Yeah.
he was the first one I heard talking about it. And it was like at the time, I'm like, that's cool. Now let me get back to training dogs. Now how am I gonna? And then later on, it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
That's
that
awesome.
guy was saying something I could use.
This
yeah.
actually makes a lot of sense.
That's super cool.
Yeah. From your start in the pet dog world, and now I think you're going across several different, disciplines. You're doing the
Yeah.
pet dog world, you're doing the police dog world. Now you guys are doing the bomb contracts and all that. What across the board is the same? What is vastly different, if there is anything? I mean,
Sure.
I feel like in my head there are things. Chris Oliver is
I love Chris.
a Ford canine guy, and I watch Chris do the police dogs, and I watch Chris do his weekend.
Yeah.
And
Dog
I saw him
crew.
do the pet stuff. God, the patience.
Oh,
The
right.
patience that you got have on all these different breeds for nose work. I was like, I can't stand here anymore and
Right,
watch this.
right.
I'm about to explode.
It's definitely
I'm used to-
different. It's definitely Cameron goes through the same thing sometimes when he's doing the sport dog stuff. It's just a different speed of things. And then like I'm always reminding Cameron like, hey, they're doing this for fun. They're paying to do this, just to have fun with their dog. It's not as
Yeah.
serious that the stakes aren't the same, right, as
Yeah.
it is when we're working on the professional side. Certainly the type of dog that you're doing it with can be different. Although I will say on the sport dog side, now that it's been around for longer, you do have, a handful of like more serious competitors that are selecting dogs specifically to, get first
win.
place, to
Yeah.
win and stuff like that. And it's because the sport dog side has such a heavy emphasis on time. I find that that's a really hard aspect on like looking at it as a professional to like feel okay with, because it looks like really bad search technique because it's just dogs coming in and like sometimes they're just running around the room and they look like maniacs and then they find it. And it's typically a much smellier target maybe than we would be also like needing to train for on the professional side. So they can kind of get away with a little bit more of that hectic search style. They don't need to go through and detail the room. It would be like a waste of time if they did that. But some of the like, wow, that was first place. The dog found the hide in like 6 seconds. You're like, how? But the search style that is required to find it in 6 seconds is not something that like you
Pretty
or I.
frantic.
Yeah, it's not what we would want to see on the professional side because our dog would likely skip a bunch of stuff. But, your goals are a little bit different, but it still requires lots of training. And I would say the sport dog side has done a lot, if we allow it to, has done a lot to show us on the professional side that this is a like much more natural thing for the dogs to get into than maybe we gave them credit for. Like I see dogs that feel a little bit like watching paint dry when they're searching, but they are in it and they might be slow, but they're not distracted. They are focused on finding it. They just don't get there quickly.
Just keep going.
They
Or
just
do you
keep
think
going.
that he's about to run out at any time? Nope.
Yeah,
he just keeps going.
Right. And,
keeps
and
going.
at a certain point, those higher levels, by the time they're in the, NW3 and elite and above, you start watching him and you already know that that's got to be a decent dog, or at least the dog can do it, or they've been doing it for a long time and they got lucky eventually. But like you have to have, the dog has to be able to find it and not false and all of that stuff in order to do it. I think for more of our professional handlers to go and watch some of the higher level sports stuff would maybe be a little humbling.
Yeah.
Like even for me, I was already on the sport side for a long time before I started doing more of the professional work. And I remember the first time we went to Cameron's and he had all the cops there to train. I was so excited. Like, you idolize them a little bit on the sports side. Like, oh my God, they're doing
This
it
is
for
going to
real.
be
Here we
amazing.
go.
Yes, this is going to be so cool. And I was pretty disappointed.
Yeah, you're like, no, that's a guy that never owned a dog that just got one 2 weeks ago.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it shows.
So yeah, there are some sport handlers that could kick the butt of a lot of professional handlers for sure.
We talk about that all the time. Like if that 80-year-old lady can get
Right.
her pug
Yeah.
to find odor,
We like to shame
and you
handlers
can't
for
do it.
that all
Yeah,
the
if you
time.
can't do it with this high drive Mal,
Exactly.
like that's the operator problem. That's not the
Right.
dog problem.
Although, I think the biggest thing that separates the skill set that our professional dogs need is they just need to have that endurance, right? They need to have the drive to do it potentially for hours every day and not get bored of it and have the flexibility to deal with all the crazy environments. The The sport stuff, you'll have a warning. Oh, this environment could have loud airplanes go over. So maybe you don't choose to trial here, because it's catered to, more sensitive dogs maybe and things like that. But there's definitely big differences of what we need on the professional side. So even your highest level, sport dog may still be a very inappropriate working dog.
Let's take the difference there between the pet dogs and the working dogs. And I know you're going to select a dog today, or at least you're going to try it.
Yeah.
When you're looking for a dog, what is it when you're looking for a dog? What is it that you're looking for? You get to pick your perfect dog. What is it that you like to see in a dog?
Well, obviously, since we are into the spaniels, we like that high hunt drive. I'm definitely paying more attention now with the spaniels to make sure that our toy or even food drive, like I don't care if potentially we have to use food, but I want to see that those are at least equal to the hunt drive or can compete against the hunt drive. Because sometimes, and we see this with pointers and some of those other like sporting breeds too, where they have this fantastic hunt drive, all they want to do is search, but they want to search for stuff that's intrinsically motivating and interesting to them, and they don't necessarily care about the stuff we're trying to get them to care about. And when you're fighting against that super strong hunt drive, if you don't have something that can compete with it, like a high food or toy drive, it's really challenging. And that's kind of what I went through with Laura, my little cocker, that's now one of our explosive dogs and doing great. But man, I had to, she put me through my paces to figure out how to deal with a dog who nothing is going to compete with hunting for her. Nothing.
So you would have, and I think I remember that you would have a dog go out, hunt her ass off, maybe find odor and be like, it's over there. And then
hit and run, bam.
Hit and run, exactly. And she was super accurate. So, because my initial feeling when I was dealing with that initially with her was like, oh, I just don't have enough value for odor. So I spent like 2 weeks just like hammering my indication and sourcing, and it looked beautiful. Like it was perfect in all of my training environments. Get into an environment that was interesting to her, like, ooh, I haven't smelled that smell before. And she would work to odor right away. It's not like she was messing around. She just didn't care if I knew about it. It was for her own satisfaction, and me coming in and going, yay, you got your reward.
Didn't matter.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm already getting what I want. I don't need that. So it made that communication piece almost like a chore to her. Instead of it being the thing that unlocked her reinforcement, it was the thing that was in the way of her continuing her reinforcement.
An obstacle. So how did you address that?
Lots and lots of pre-Mac. So pretty much at that point when I started recognizing what was actually going on, everything that was fun for her came through working odor and communicating the odor. Like I was really strict on the indication. Not right away. I built up to, okay, now you have to go in a full indication and you have to hold it and stay really committed to telling me about it. So anything that was fun for her, swimming, running around with other dogs, training, anything else, beyond odor work, she had to go and do even a short odor problem first. And so I just pre-Mac the heck out of it. So, okay, I see you want to go smell whatever smell over there. No problem. You got to do this first for me, and then I will let you go smell that. So I have a specific cue that is basically allowing her to go and reinforce in the environment. So I say, go play, and that means you can go do spaniel stuff. But you have to do my stuff first, and I'm not going to let you self-reinforce with sniffing, non-productive things. You're going to get put up. You're going to be in a leash timeout, whatever, and you're just building that up as you go. And you have to make sure you have that solid foundation first. But I see it's such a common issue. Yeah.
And would you say it's breed specific a lot?
Yeah, definitely. Spaniels, I see it a lot with GSPs. Any of those breeds where like the hunting is just, it's what we bred into them and it's why we like them so much for detection. It's like a gift and a curse. And like I was saying, I think before we started, that we had several spaniels right out the gate that were super easy. They had really high hunt drive, but they also had super high toy drive. So even though there was that hunt drive, it wasn't really in conflict because I could always say, hey, I have your thing. And they wanted that more than they wanted the novelty of the environment. So if you get a good balance, it's sort of the best of both worlds. But if they're a little unbalanced and you let them continue rehearsing that behavior, I see it a lot on the search and rescue side too. Somebody has a dog and they give it way too much freedom in the search work too early. And for the first 5 minutes of the search, the dog's just self-satiating hunting. They're not thinking about their HR odor or whatever. They're just doing their own thing. And then eventually they go, okay, that environment's, I checked it out. So I'm kind of satiated with figuring that out. Now I'll go get paid.
Hey, we'd like to welcome our new sponsor and old friend, Blackjack's Leather. Blackjack's is the true definition of a mom and pop shop. They're out in Illinois. Richard, the owner, is somebody that we work extensively with. They make leather leashes, leather collars, biothane. We get a ton of biothane from them. Biothane 3-foot, 6-foot, 20-foot, 30-foot leashes. All kinds of colors. I know everybody that's listening to the podcast is into the tactical with the greens and the coyotes and the blacks. But if you have a pet dog at home and you want your dog to be a little flashy, we love their long line biothane leashes. There's blues, there's pinks, there's oranges, yellows, all kinds of colors. Add a little flash to your program. And they really care about canine handlers. They're big on making sure that the equipment that they sell is safe for the dog and safe for the handler, and exactly what you're asking for. Blackjack's Leather, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you.
So it would be fair to say on your selection end, you're trying to find a balance with the hunt and the desire to interact with a toy or have a reward system. So how does that look? So the Spaniels, you put them out in an environment, they're hunting, obviously, and you're differentiating for our listeners, differentiating between hunting and high energy.
Right.
So they're not just running around having a good time, which, I fell for early on. I'm like, man, that dog won't quit. Well, he ain't hunting, started. But he won't quit. He never started. Good point. So we've ascertained, like, okay, this dog is hunting really nicely. Mm-hmm. Now let's make sure this toy is important to him, right? Or whatever reward we're using. Well, let's just say, for instance, like a tennis ball. Let's just say easy. How does that look for you when you're testing?
I would want to see if I'm, sort of presenting or offering that toy that they're going to pick that over the environment. Or at least you can see that your toy is definitely competing with, there was an interesting smell there, but I got to do this. I'm paying attention to the ball or whatever because this is the thing that is engaging me right now. Maybe if that wasn't engaging me, that would be interesting. But in sort of light of that being that reinforcer potentially being available, I'm going to do what I need to do to get that before I think about this other stuff. And when they're out of balance, it's sort of like the opposite. It's like in a sort of a non-competitive environment, so my training environments, I'm going to pick the ball every time because this stuff is not as interesting. But out and about, ooh, a ball. Cool, I'll come back to that. But first I got to go see what animal was trailing through this grass the other day. Mm-hmm. You get stuff like that.
So you throw the ball out there and then they get distracted and they're hunting for something. That would be a warning sign.
Correct.
Do you think that the breeder, whoever's bringing up the dog, can mitigate some genetic issues by getting the dog interested in a toy early on?
Sure, yeah. I think that, developing their interest in sort of manifesting that type of energy on toys and stuff can be helpful early on. I will say with Spaniels, they're not like Mows or even maybe some of the Shepherds or maybe even Lab puppies. They take quite a while for some of that stuff to come online. Like we might go and do our selection at 8 weeks, and I'm basically looking at which puppy sort of tracks the toy the best and maybe shows some interest, but I always say they're kind of like hamsters when you bring them home. So you just can't see a lot in them yet. They take a while to to be ready to actually see what's in there. I always assess the parents a lot and make sure I like what their toy drive looks like and that their intensity and all of that is good. And then that makes me feel a little bit safer, with my puppy. And for us, obviously we've used Josh a lot. There's a couple other Spaniel breeders that we've had success with. I haven't had enough dogs from the other ones to say how consistent they are, but you start getting a pretty good idea of what kind of pairing you would want and stuff like that to better your odds. Obviously, never a guarantee, with a puppy. If Alara wasn't my personal dog, we would have washed her for sure just because it was going to take too long. But thankfully, she was a dog I picked for myself because I liked those lines so much. And then it became a kind of a good training project for me to, learn about how do you deal with a dog like this.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I know Kylie's on her 3rd Spaniel now.
Yeah, you learn a lot.
And she started this one off with a whole lot of play.
Cool.
Early on and a lot of tug and a lot, that dog is Malinois driven to play with the toy
awesome.
Because she started there.
For sure.
And I think she did that because, she was having some of the same problems with the dogs just all over the place and not paying a lot of attention to the toy.
She was my first one that all the other ones we had raised just kind of came with a lot of the toy drive and stuff, sort of for free. We didn't do any extra special stuff, just our normal puppy development. So she was the first one that we were kind of like, oh, okay, we have to maybe we need to think about this stuff a little bit more. And I find that they do really well with structure. Like Jessie actually helped me a lot with Alara in some of the early stage of even just structuring her toy play. Like, bring the toy to me, and then don't just run around, the whole room. Like, have some interaction with me and building that structure. I think for dogs like that, actually having, sort of more communication or having them have a thought of you in the back of their head actually helps them. Oh yeah, I better go into indication and things like that, as opposed to like, I'm in hunting mode and it's just me in the world right now.
Well, and I think if you look at what they would be doing in their task that they're bred for, right? The cocker and the spaniel and the springer would be out flushing things. Like, I find it, and I don't need you, boss.
Right.
You stay back there. I'm going to go do my thing independently.
Yeah.
There it is. It's its thing. I'm going to wait here.
Right.
It's going to fly away. I never get it. Like, there's no value in the retrieve. Right. Whereas the lab is like, I'm with you. You shoot it. I go get it. I come back to you. That's the best thing that's ever going to happen in my day is I go find that thing and I bring it back to you. There's some built-in value and like, I'm going to work for you because that's what they're bred to do.
Yeah.
If they've been started on birds, that's something that you go, I'm not going to.
Yeah, we typically, if they're started on birds, especially from the breeder we're going with, it's not like they're going to start them on birds and the dog's going to go like, I guess that was okay. Like you're like immediately awakening something there. Like our spaniel puppies, unfortunately for them, because I'm sure they would love to do bird stuff, but from the time that they're young, if they, they're checking out a bird, let's go. We're not paying attention to that. So we pretty quickly try to kind of squash thoughts of thinking about
unless you're going to use a bird as a reward.
There you go. There you go.
Throw in this poor dove. Like, boom, you got him, buddy.
That would be if you could
horrific.
Do that. Maybe that would compete with the environmental smells.
Yeah, that could help, right? Like, you're gonna have to answer some ethical questions on the news or something.
We did have when Cameron's little cocker Ammo and Alara were young at his place in Vegas. They found a pigeon. I don't know if it was dead or if they ended up kind of killing it or what. But man, like little Ammo, he got a hold of it, and that dog has some good possession when he's into stuff. I had to choke his little butt off. He did not want to let go.
Before working for Cameron, had you messed with any shepherds and mals or any of that?
Not really. I was very interested in them, but I also knew that if I was going to get into not so much shepherds, I had a friend that does like working line shepherds as her thing, so I've been around a lot of her dogs. I wasn't as interested in the shepherds. If I was going to get one of those two, it would have been the mal, but I'm very glad that I didn't at that stage in my development, but also there wasn't a good bite work community, and I really felt like if I was going to get a mal, I wanted to get it and do what it was genetically made to do. Like, why get a mal and then be like, you're gonna be an obedience dog or something? It feels like a little bit of a waste there, and we didn't have a good bite work community that I felt I could lean on at that time. So I think I went and got like a border collie.
Oh, there you go.
And you go through like a stage. I don't want to get a border collie. Who's
all
impressed by a border collie?
Collies,
you know what? Sometimes you just want a nice dog that just wants to do the thing.
Yeah.
You know?
I know. I fight with that. I always want to have a dog. I feel like it's a requirement that as a dog trainer that I have a dog that I can be like, hey, this is my dog.
Sure, yeah.
Like, I can do this job.
It's like getting a Schnauzer for detection.
Yeah. So that's why
awesome.
that's why I went down the Schnauzer world, and I don't crop their ears.
Okay.
I just let them look floppy and goofy because then it's like I work in a doodle. Like it just looks kind of vague and ambiguous, and it's not overly flashy.
Yeah.
I was working with a border collie for the last 6 months that we sold as an adventure dog, and everywhere I took it, it did perfect.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you're supposed to, I was like, I just felt like it was like it was a cheat code.
Yeah, totally.
Like, got the border collie and he just listens to me. And I don't even have to treat that dog.
And sometimes, like, I know there's trainers that are super interested in off breeds because of the challenge of that and stuff. And I think there's a point that could be fun. But sometimes you just want to have a fun session and just have a dog that just wants to do all the stuff and doesn't make you go through too much crazy stuff.
And it's a conversation that we have with pet owners, right? Yeah. Like, hey, you know what you should do? You should get a dog that wants to work for you and not one that you have to fight all the time. And then I'm over here with this, Great Pyrenees that just wants to go lay out in the field. Like, why won't he pay any attention to me? Well, there's a selection issue.
Right.
You started to talk a little bit about obedience, and Gregg and I were talking about it on the way here. There's this perception, and in some places, a very strong rule that if your dog is a detection dog, do not put any obedience on that because you will smash their ability to do detection. Side note, the mals and the shepherds are out doing police work, looking for things with their nose or smelling for things, and they have to have impeccable, they
Right.
should, obedience, and yet they're still finding things. Why is it on the single purpose detection side that there's a thought out there that obedience is off limits and it's going to ruin the dog? And do you agree?
I definitely don't agree. I think it just comes from like, I think it just comes from like how we used to train, you know, where sure, if you're putting a lot of pressure on a dog to get your obedience, that could have an effect on their confidence to move out away from you and go and do stuff that maybe they don't know if they're allowed or not, like climb on tables and, you know, knock stuff over to source and things like that. So I think a lot of that idea just comes from that. And honestly, I think another aspect of it, and maybe this is maybe just part of the reason that it hasn't changed when it should have by now. Like, we're evolved enough as a community that we should all recognize, like you said, there's police dogs that have a bunch of obedience and they're perfectly fine. So why is it different on this side, you know, than that side? And I think some of it just comes down to time. Like, you know, even for us, like as vendors, you only, you know, you get a department or whatever that calls you and they want the dog like next month. And you're like, you know, especially like Cameron and I never did it big time like that where we just have piles of dogs. Like, we're selecting a dog for you, training a dog for you. We need time to go through all of that. So
you get obedience or you get detection.
Kind of, yeah. So you're also splitting your time between those two things, which I think can be done. I think can be done if you put the time into it, or even like, you know, we have a couple green dogs right now, and, you know, pretty much all of their obedience work is just being done sort of in the in-between areas, right? Like walking to your session, or while we're doing our toy play, developing their play skills, things like that. You're kind of building your obedience in those stages, so it doesn't necessarily take a lot of time away from your detection work. But yeah, absolutely. You can have dogs with lots of obedience. All of my dogs have a lot of obedience on them. My cocker, it's only helped us because instead of like just out for herself, she's thinking about me a little bit more, which sounds like the opposite of what we would want from a lot of our detection dogs. But when you have a dog that independent and that, you know, sort of selfish in the hunting, you kind of need them to be going like, oh yeah, you're with me too, you know?
Well, and we thought maybe that back in the day when training and obedience was primarily compulsive, and you had a strong Mal and a strong Shepherd that could take that, or come up the leash if they couldn't take it, then you could work that out. But if I bring this happy little lab in that just wants to follow its nose, and I'm using all that compulsion, so our thought is there's probably a point when dogs were doing detection, and then somebody, and this happens still, somebody wants to add a little obedience to the dog, and they go out there and yank and crank on the dog, and the dog is like, not only do I not love your obedience, but now I'm not doing anything because I wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Done incorrectly or done like not thoughtfully, I think it can create issues even with our more modern training, like not on the professional side so much, but I'd see this all the time on the sport dog side because they typically have obedience and stuff, you know, at least some degree of like pet obedience, or you have people that I do rally on Wednesdays and then on Saturday I do nose work or whatever, and you'll have them come in and work their nose work and the dog keeps turning and looking at them and they're going, stop paying attention to me. Why are you paying attention to me?
Because I had to do that on Thursday night.
And then on Thursday night they're going, I don't know why he's not looking at me. He's not paying attention to me. He's too independent. Like, there's sometimes conflict that gets built in when we don't add clarity to our work so that the dog actually understands what is my expectation in this moment. But you can totally have both. My Mal, it has a bunch of Mondio, you know, foundational work on her for obedience. I walk her in a contact heel a lot. Like, she has all of that, and her detection is super independent.
See, and I think the difference is you're a trainer, right?
Sure.
So you know how to navigate all those areas.
You can compartmentalize it.
That's where we get into the always and never. That's where somebody came down and said, no more obedience. Nobody do it. Like you had
I had a handler that had a detection dog, and he wanted to teach it some off-lead healing, and he taught it every time he stopped, it sat. And so now he's searching, and then the dog is looking at him for cues, and now he
stops moving, and the dog
stops moving, and the dog sits, and now we're playing this whole game of trying to take that.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that and dealt with that. And my experience is like it's a little bit. We don't need that level of obedience with our detection dogs, right? Like, we don't need to be doing all sorts of crazy stuff, but you can certainly have, you know, foundational obedience. Everybody should have a recall. Right? Like shit that's just like keeps them safe. Like we should all have that stuff. We don't need to get crazy with that. And sometimes I do see handlers who maybe they have some good detection foundation, but you can see there's a little bit of issues there, right? The dog's thinking about you a little bit too much in the work, or you're too much a part of that picture for the dog, and then they want to, I want to start doing directionals. Maybe not at this stage. Like,
Right.
we need to make sure our independence is strong enough and the dog's understanding of like what the job is there before we start pulling ourselves potentially more into that picture. So certainly it's like its own sort of skill to balance. And, as an instructor and stuff, there's a lot of, how much do you show them over here if it's going to start confusing or messing them up over here? But I also find, like, if we aren't talking about obedience with our green handlers or whatever going out there, most of them are going to go home and try to do stuff anyways.
Do stuff on their own, and like,
and then,
what
and
happened?
who knows what that's going to look like. So I at least, would like to make sure we have a conversation and we go over, things to be careful about. Hey, don't start doing this if your dog's having issues with this, or, you don't have clarity here or whatever. And also just like, if you want a crazy high level obedience dog, don't mess with your professional detection dog with that. Get another dog to do that. I'm always telling people that. If you want to do that, just get another dog. People want it to all be in one dog and have this dog just be like a master of everything. And that's just not how most of our dogs are. Maybe you get like a really special dog that could really jump between all those things. But it'd be better for us to like let this dog be this dog. And if you have an interest that you want to dive into, get a dog just for that.
Hey, I'd like to thank one of our sponsors, Ray Allen Manufacturing. They've been engineering tactical and working dog equipment like harnesses, collars, leashes for military, police for over 75 years. They are continuously innovating. I always like to say, this is not your dad's Ray Allen. They are always looking for the bigger and the better. We get all of our handlers now in the basic handler course deal directly with Ray Allen. We get our harnesses, leashes, tugs, e-collars, gloves, Rec Specs, Hearing Dog Pro. All of our good stuff comes from Ray Allen Manufacturing. Look them up, rayallen.com. I cannot recommend them enough. We only recommend people that we deal with, and these are good people, and they're in it for the right reasons. So because of that, rayallen.com.
That's what I love about Vegas, right? Like, Vegas separates the back seat. You get detection,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
detection, dog over here.
Yep, they got
and
their
you're
spaniel
out.
in their
Holland does
mouth.
the same thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, in the Netherlands, at least a few years ago, it was you didn't have dual-purpose dogs.
Yeah, you had two
Yeah.
dogs.
You had
to
two
do-
dogs,
that
yeah.
did two different jobs. Yeah, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of pitfalls, as you're traveling, and you guys are doing a lot of traveling, and a lot of people are
Sure.
traveling to you with handlers, we'll go with police dog handlers since this is kind of what we do.
Yep.
What are you seeing as a couple of the biggest problems that handlers are having, across the industry with detection dogs in particular? That you wish you could be like, man, if I could just fix this, or
Yeah.
if I could get in.
Honestly, I would say the biggest challenge that I'm seeing that ends up creating a lot of other issues on top of that is just a lack of clarity in their communication systems. The dog's not 100% sure what they're supposed to be doing in all of these situations. And then the handler's not really sure either. Like, I can't tell you the number of handlers where, well, what is your indication, or like, what are you waiting for that tells you this is what I'm going to pay my dog? And you get a range of answers. And if you're not super clear on what that picture is, then how is your dog going to be clear on that? And then kind of along with that, a little bit overemphasis on our indication work. And Cameron and I have been Cameron's been pushing this for the last couple of months. We've been we've been noticing it a lot as like a trend, where, the indication is like our end all be all. And not that we don't need an indication. We all want an indication. Like I said, I started, poking around and doing marker training and stuff because I like the aesthetic partially
Having
of
a nice, like, it's right here.
Agreed.
yes,
Yeah.
like it's pretty and,
It is.
and as a trainer, like it's nice to see that precision and stuff like that. But we just have to remember to make sure our dog really properly understands what the sort of sequence of importance is. And sourcing and odor needs to be number one, and then that should be followed by our indication, which should be proofed and really made strong and all of that stuff, but not sort of one in spite of the other. So you'll see, the handler thinks that odor is over here, but there's a little breeze or whatever, and now odor's getting shifted a little bit, and the dog's not 100% sure, so they're not going into indication, and they're waiting forever and ever, and finally the dog just goes like, I don't know, I'm just going to walk it. And then they're like, what the heck? Why'd you walk odor? Well, the dog was showing you they weren't confident about whatever that picture was. And instead of saying, that is it, you're good, you got this, you just left the dog to kind of, fail at that, basically.
So let's break that down a little bit. So
Yeah.
say we'll use that corner where the light is over there. The dog goes over there and kind of starts to like, I think it might be
Yeah.
here. And then, like you said, the air's flowing, things are going on. As a handler, what should I do? If my dog doesn't give me a clear indication,
Yeah.
but I kind of have an idea and the dog kind of has an idea,
Yeah.
what do you want the handler doing in that situation?
I mean, some of it is situationally dependent, right? And then dependent on sort of where the dog is at in that progression. I might have a pretty experienced dog where that's my own training aid, and I know the dog should be able to go into indication, like it's not a difficult setup, and I might say, okay, if you're not going to commit to it, then like I'll just put you up. You're going to miss that one. But if I have a younger dog and we're still in that development stage, and I see my dog questioning themselves, and they're correct, but they're questioning themselves, and I can see their confidence going down, and I'm moving further away from getting an indication behavior. They're not like getting, ooh, I think this is it. They're starting to go sort of the opposite direction. I'm going to mark and pay change. I'm going to mark and pay that initial effort. And then for us in that early stage, we will typically do what I call a resend, to basically say, cool, you got paid for that. I'm giving you an opportunity to go back to it and get paid again, but I'm going to increase my criteria for your indication behavior. So the first time I paid you on a good sniff of it, I paid you on that, like, whoa, my odor's here. On the second one, I want you to give me that full final indication that I've maybe worked or shown you in other areas. So, I think it kind of goes back to that never say never thing, right? Like, you have to be flexible, and you can't just be so reliant always on the final indication. And then in some cases, like, you see them convince the dog to go into the indication, and it was 100% just a handler prompted behavior. The dog's not even thinking about odor. And at that point, I just look at that as you're creating a falsing problem for yourself now. And then down the road, you're going to, why the heck is my dog doing this? Well, you told it to.
And rewarded it.
And you rewarded it. Right. So you get stuff like that. And I really want to make sure independence and confidence, is there for my dog. And then I can make that indication super strong when I have those things. Like, our dogs want the stuff that we have for them, right? Like, why would they not go into that behavior if we've shown them and they understand the concept, right? So, I guess I would say that.
What are your thoughts on correcting a
How
dog?
dare you?
I know. Well,
Why are you looking at me when you say that? No, I'm just kidding.
what are your thoughts on correcting it? So dogs in hunt doing
Yeah.
its thing, and then it starts to screw off and do something else. What are your thoughts on correcting a dog that intentionally leaves hunt to go?
Here's a good example, and
Okay.
and I saw this today with one of our dogs, new dog. He goes in and he's preoccupied with other dogs, and he goes in and noses to the ground, and it's obvious he is searching
For dog.
Dog stuff.
It's dog
Yeah.
odor, right? And for those of you that are listening, you should be able to recognize when your dog is sniffing dog odor, and the back arches, the
Right.
tail set's different. The breathing is sometimes maybe even a little licking,
Chatter,
a
yeah.
little chattering, and you're like, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. This dog odor has higher value
Yep.
than the game we're playing right now. What are you doing in that situation?
Yeah, I'm good with the correction at that point. For us, for the most part, when I'm initially seeing that in a dog, it's mostly going to be like removing them from that so that they can't rehearse it, right? That's all reinforcement happening. So if we just stand there and like wait it out, well, now your dog just had 5 minutes in your search area of reinforcing themselves on dog odor, like all that.
So you catch it quick.
Yes, and I want to catch it early on in my training process. Like, if I see a dog come in and do that right away, that dog's been practicing that for a while. If my dog's, even Alara, even my little spaniel that wants to sneak in any extra sniffs, right, that potentially she could, she knows in this context, I'm just not allowed to do this right now. I'm going to have to wait until after I find this odor or whatever to really go mess off with that, right? And I'm going to be on her right away. And so those early stages, if I have a dog that I know is maybe a little bit more inclined to get distracted with that stuff, they're going to be worked on leash. Like, I want to be able to have control of it fairly quickly. And generally, we shouldn't really have to escalate our punishments a whole lot, right? So usually I'm just to the point of interrupting it, like something verbal. Hey, knock it off, get back to work. Maybe I come up and I retask them or something like that. But I'm also then going to be addressing it outside of that search. So if I saw that, okay, maybe we're having some issues with focusing on odor when there's dog odor around. Let me look at that in a more foundational setup. So I might do my lineups and, put one of my dog's tug toys in the lineup and see how much we get stuck on that. Like, I want to make sure I've sort of explained this picture to them in a variety of ways. I take a blanket out of one of my crates and that's out while they have to do a lineup. Something foundational, kind of away from the full search, because the search has a lot of variables. And we do need to be a little bit careful about making assumptions, about exactly what are obviously something like I'm stuck to carpet or grass or whatever, doing the hunchback sniffing, like that's pretty obvious. But in a lot of cases, especially maybe for our greener handlers, we do want to be careful about making big assumptions that our dog's messing around when they're not. We just finished a handler.
Correcting them off of
exactly,
right?
Or just the dog's working and they're just not reading it correctly, right? So I like to try to explain it as much as I can to the dog in a foundational setting. But certainly I'm not going to let them rehearse it when I see it happening in a search, because that's just going to make it get worse. And I'm going to step into whatever degree I would say I need to.
That's one of the things. Do you know Mike Lilly? Have you ever trained with him? Mike starts all of his detection dogs off now in Rural King, and that's like our Tractor Supply.
Okay.
So he immediately
right away,
starts in there, has the dogs working in the nut and bolt aisle, and then up by the cashier, and he will like, what are you looking over there for? Knock it off. Boom, back on
totally.
task. And he has no problem using any collar, low stem, whatever he needs to do to make that happen. And he does the same thing on his tracking, right? Like his thing is, if dog's tracking and the lady comes out on her front porch, what are you doing in my backyard? And the dog looks over, like he's on the stem, and then drives the dog right back down into. But I think that also takes finesse. And
it does, because you could make a dog super insecure in the hunt now, right? Now I'm going to be like Velcro, because now you made me nervous about this environment if you're a little bit overboard.
Yeah. And I think a lot of these problem-solving issues are, like, we can talk pretty definitively about them because we know how to provide just enough finesse, like, to not be too much. And when you go back into the always and nevers, don't ever correct your dog when it's in detection, or it's going to stop doing detection. Or every time your dog leaves odor, you better correct him. Like, both of those can't,
And
maybe,
you have
sometimes.
to have enough of your foundation. Like, you have to have a dog that is far enough into the work that that you've built value for your odor. They have good value for the hunt. Like, you've done your job as far as making the dog want to do this game. And they're kind of, okay, I'm taking a break from this to go and do that. Because it's different from, say, a greener dog that just kind of doesn't understand what you're asking, or is really overwhelmed by the environment, and they're not necessarily interested in dog smells. They're just doing displacement stuff because they're super stressed out, right? And then we get on them, hey, knock it off, and now they're even more stressed out.
Yeah, like you just made it worse. Right?
Yeah, you just made it worse. Although I would say, like, we have other issues if we're seeing that with some of our professional dogs, that the dog's that stressy.
Well, and this is the thing, though. So a lot of times we select a dog for patrol first.
Oh, right.
So we have patrol dogs that dabble in detection, right? So, and again, I'm just going to use a dog that's in our class now because it's representative of some of the patrol dogs out there. So it loves to hunt the man.
Yep.
Loves to fight the man. So in the patrol world, it's a dog.
Right.
Detection, like no man's in here.
Right.
I'm kind of doing it.
Right.
I'm finding myself having the handler to have to get involved with the dog. And I'm toying with something, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. So I use a clicker in the beginning, so I can mark the behavior. I can recognize when the dog is close to odor and the behavior I want to mark. I'm not relying on a brand new handler to have to mark it or pay a toy, all that delivery system. Handlers, get some education in this area. It's made my life so much easier. Our non-productive alerts outside of the basic have vanished.
Awesome.
So we've had a lot of success. However, this dog is pretty dry in the detection game. And I'm thinking about making it more of an aggressive on a final to try to build some drive so it has some fun at source.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, what's your idea of how to implement it?
Well, I thought of it today. So I haven't come up with a training plan.
You don't have an always or never on this
However, maybe even going back to like a scented object,
like a rolled towel or
like
something.
a towel or something to make the game a little more fun.
It's a drug dog.
And getting him in there, and it's a patrol dog that's going to do. Yeah, exactly. Good question. Wouldn't do it with explosives. Listeners, make it fun. He's a one purpose, one use dog. So maybe even make it more. That's the object, and when he's at source, start praising him up and get him in there and get it out of there. Like all the stuff that we've worked
Yeah,
away
yeah.
from.
Right.
That's completely backwards from where we've moved to.
Right.
However, like without the motivation
Sure.
of this
Yeah,
dog,
totally.
like it's like, well, what's the lesser of two evils?
Right. Yeah, totally. I think when you have a dog that you're trying to pull more out of, you know, you're probably not at as high of a risk of really going through it and dealing with a ton of aggressive responding if you can't even get the dog's not even like really bought into doing it yet. So that is like your first step, right? Is how do I get the dog to buy into it?
How to get him excited and have fun at this game, because that's the same dog that's like, this pet is very, this odor of other dogs is very interesting.
Gotcha.
And it's like, we're week 2, you're coming in to find odor,
Right.
yet it's actually...
How's that dog? Just curious. Like, if you just threw a Kong in the tall grass, what does he think about that? Love it?
Yeah, he'd go for it. Yeah, he would search
Love
for
it, though?
for sure. He thinks it's all right. He thinks it's fun. He never really liked the toy and the bite work. That's that dog, right? Like, Hey, for all you handlers out there, it's really important that we stay in physical condition, but it's also equally, if not more important, that we are good upstairs mentally. And so knowing that you guys have a stressful job, something that we've started doing, all of our trainers doing, and Rich turned me on to this, is sauna box.
Yeah, love it.
And it's to say it's life-changing is not hyperbole. Like, it's one of those things that if you haven't done sauna, I highly recommend it. And I was looking at like, hey, how can I get a sauna? I started looking at pricing them out. Could go up to $10,000 for a nice one. And Rich, you're the one that turned me on to this thing. It's for about $500. You get a sauna that it's steam, and it is not pleasant when you hit about the 20-minute mark if you can hang in there for that long. But when I come out of this thing, man, I feel so much better. I feel decompressed. I feel like I'm a nicer person.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that now I do probably 4 to 5 days a week. All of our trainers have them. I'm getting the same feedback. Rich, you have one.
Have it. I really can't live without it at this point. And like you said, it's 20 minutes. It can be in the evening. It can be in the morning, whenever it works best for you. But 20 minutes on the sauna box, and you are gassed by the time you come out of there. But rinse off, get ready to go. Like, man, your body feels better. Your brain feels better. I just feel like I can take more on that day. My sleep is definitely better. I love it, and I use it. Like, I'm with you. I use it 4 or 5 times a week. It's part of my program now, and it's the least invasive part of my program that makes me feel that much better.
Yeah, lots of studies on it. So go to saunabox.com. Use keyword K9. K, the number 9. Get yourself an extra 10% off. Tell them Rich and Gregg sent you.
Have some fun and sweat it out.
All right.
What is he like in the bite work? He's a really fighty dog? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a fighty dog. And then even to the handler, like, hey, have this sleeve and hold this sleeve. And he's like,
Nope.
nah, I don't think
I
so.
got what I need right here.
You're like, God dang.
So is it possible that the answer is wrong dog for the job?
Yeah, but that's not the answer to the agency.
No, I know. I'm just,
But I'm with you. And this is my conversation with the handler.
Yeah.
Is this is going to be a good patrol dog
Right.
that does a little detection. But I've seen the game, and for you handlers, there's hope out there because
Yeah.
I've stuck with it with some dogs.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
over time, suddenly the dog's like, all right, this is
Yes.
the only game there is.
Yep.
And it's like a year into it. I'm talking a year and a half
Right.
down the road. And you probably see this in the
Yeah,
pet world,
totally.
right? And all of a sudden you're like, hey, is this the
Look at
same
that. It's
dog?
doing it.
You know,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
squeaked him through a handler class, with
Yeah,
a
totally.
benevolent evaluator, and now look at him like he actually looks like he's
Yeah,
having
it's only
fun.
week 2 for the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could get some buy in there for sure. I would definitely try even just doing some more toy hunts just to get stop thinking about doing decoy stuff, stop thinking about looking for a man, and just think about looking for a reinforcer initially.
Okay.
And kind of like the tall grass idea, but even do it in your interiors where you see it and you're
See the
you're
toy.
restraining him a little bit. You're creating a little bit of excitement, not too much. We don't want too crazy arousal or he's going to turn around at you or something.
Yeah. Make sure you get back behind the handler before you let
There
him
you go. But toss it in the room and just see if you can create some buy-in for this is a different context and the rules are different. Because imagine if hunting for the man is the biggest thing in his mind, that's like his end all be all. This is the best day, and then he thinks he's going in to do that, and then you're like, go find the smell. I mean, that's got to suck, right? Like you're violating his expectation to something that is not intrinsically rewarding, and then you're backing it up with something that he would much rather have a guy to fight with than that. So
that
just
was
helping
my
him change
thought
the
because,
context.
like with Boogie, who's really good at this, in the beginning, it was all about the wrestling with the ball on the rope. Like you go find that thing and bring it back to me, and then we're gonna
fight.
go off.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm gonna give you everything you wanted from the
Right.
bite, but now you're getting it with me. And then he was like, oh, this thing is so
Yeah.
cool because of what I get with you, not because of this thing. So,
Yeah.
you don't have to answer this. Is the handler flat?
A little bit, but
could-
she tries hard.
Right.
She's
Yeah.
outmatched. She's outweighed by this dog.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the thing, right? Like, and now if the dog goes out there, finds the thing, and it has a rope on it or a tug, and it brings it back, and now we can go
Yeah.
crazy with it. Maybe it satiates enough of that fight
Yep, totally.
to make it worthwhile.
Have him search for a target odor, mark it. He gets to go bite the decoy.
Ooh,
Bam.
that'll work once.
I mean, that's your
Cover officers. I need all the cover officers in the car.
that's your pre-mac right there.
There you go. Right?
We're almost at an hour. You got a bunch of stuff going on where people can find you. I know because I invested in your most recent class, but seminars, videos. What is all the stuff you have out there that people can find you?
Well,
and,
we
and
have a
learn from
bunch
you?
on our website, fordk9.com. Lots of webinars and things like that. I have a webinar called Pre-Mac for Detection that is all about the stuff I had to do with Alara. So if this resonates with you, if you feel like you have a dog where you're not competing well with the environment.
Pre-Mac is a shortened term for?
Pre-Mac is basically, we might refer to it as grandma's law. You have to eat your vegetables before you can have dessert kind of thing. So you got to do the boring stuff that maybe you don't have as much intrinsic motivation to do, like going and sitting in front of a smell before you can go do the fun environmental run around like a spaniel.
I need that for me.
A little bit of Pre-Mac is good for all of us.
So Ford K9, and then
fordk9.com. And then we have that class by Nick is Sit, Stay, Learn. I don't even remember what he titled it. But Natalie Morris, you can find it on there through that.
And you got
It's all
seminars?
about
Any
detection.
seminars coming up anytime soon? Aren't you traveling soon? Are you going out of state,
Yeah, we're going to
country,
be
something
in
like
Australia middle of next week.
that? No big deal. What's going on? What's happening there?
We're doing a handful of different seminars. We're doing a joint class with Dave and Ilse of, I'm not going to remember.
Some dogs.
Canine Bellator
Oh.
out there. They're really great trainers out there. They do lots of contract work type dogs. So we're going to be doing some training with them. And then we have a bunch of different seminars in Perth for some law enforcement groups as well as some sport stuff. And then we're in New Zealand doing some cognition related stuff, puppy cognition and some stuff like that.
Oh, that was my last question. Cognition. So first
Yeah.
time I saw you was doing the cognition
Yeah.
thing. And still, I just watched the show on Netflix. I don't know, where they were doing some cognition. I forget the name of it, but a lot of cognition.
White Lotus.
Not White Lotus. Not a lot of cognition in that show. So I've been watching the cognition stuff. I kind of get it, right? Like I want to see if the dog can work through some stuff and figure out how to open the lid and go around the wall and do all those things, right? Like a really smart dog. But I found in my own like anecdotal situations, right? That having a dog that thinks too much can be problematic.
Totally.
Like sometimes the simple warrior that just wants to
We
go
want
out.
the perfect soldier. Here's your orders.
Boom, go get it, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I use the analogy or the example earlier of the shepherd that goes and finds odor and is like, right here, I'll be right back. I'm going to see if there's a door over here. I'm going to go up the stairs and see if I can sneak in the top. And then, maybe 3 minutes later, I finally get the alert because the shepherd's like, well, I've tried everything else.
Right, I'll
Now
finally tell
bark."
you here.
And the
Yeah.
Malinois catches a little bit of odor, and now it's just like, wah, he's right here.
Yeah.
Come open the door for me.
Jump
So-
up and down.
and I
You know.
would say between the two, cognitively, the shepherd's
Right.
probably a little more with it,
Sure.
right? So can too smart be a problem in detection?
Yeah, absolutely. I think more so than even like in the operational sense, the harder part of those really smart dogs. So when we talk about that, it's like our high inference, so high like independent problem solving, and then high memory dogs. Just put a lot more on us as trainers. So if you have this really high inference, high memory dog, and then you're pairing it with this green handler, or hell, even sometimes an experienced trainer, like you have got to be on your game. You can't like warm up into the session and then be like, okay, now we're starting. Like the dog is taking away every little lesson that you teach it, good or bad, right? So they're learning bad stuff that you didn't want to put into your training just as fast as they're learning the good stuff. It just puts a lot more on you to be on your stuff. And then also for us on the detection side, those higher memory dogs too can be kind of challenging because we only have so many training locations, right?
It's always in the lights.
Yeah,
it's
they
always
start
here.
exactly.
Paper towel dispenser at
they
the PD.
start. They
you know
can
what I
start
mean?
really getting like I know all the spots, and you watch them and you're like, wow, this dog looks so
amazing,
great.
right?
No, the dog is just checking all the spots, and it starts to know your type of hide placements. Like, oh, I'm training with him today. I think he loves doing elevated hides. I'm going to start, like, they really start picking up stuff like that. And you can have a lot of issues in a really short amount of time with a dog like that. But we've had lots of high inference, high memory dogs that go on to be great detection dogs. We just have to be really cognizant of that early on and make sure that the handler that's getting the dog also knows, hey, you can't be lazy with this dog. You can't just work this dog on your odor kit for the next 6 months and think that it's going to find stuff on the street. It needs to be constantly seeing different pictures. It needs to be constantly sort of having its expectation of where the hide's going to be broken a little bit, especially if you're having a lot of repetition in your operational work, right? So like we always joke, you always see when we're doing canine training, oh, it's in the filing cabinet. How often are you actually finding your hide in a filing cabinet? But our dogs get so good at that picture because that's sort of what's available to us, right? So certainly the super smart dogs are not necessarily the best thing to have. However, in detection, because we do also need the dog to be able to have some problem solving, because maybe it's not as simple as okay, I could have called it here, but I wanted to see if I could get closer. Maybe it's a much more complex puzzle than that. And we don't want the dog that just starts barking at the wall over here when it needs to tell us that it's actually, up in that ceiling, tile over there. Like, we do want a dog that's going to do some problem solving, and also our dogs that aren't as good at problem solving sometimes are a little bit quicker to just give up. If they're not getting like, ooh, okay, I think this is it. A lot of times those are the dogs that go like, I don't know, I'm not getting enough for me to want to stick with it, or I've seen this puzzle before and I can never figure it out and I don't get paid, so I'm just going to leave it, right? So you do want a dog with some intelligence, some of that ability to do that independent problem solving, to make those inferences, to figure things out, but it's kind of finding that balance to some degree. So a dog more like in the middle, maybe a little bit higher inference, maybe not crazy high memory.
High drive, good problem solver.
Yeah, we want to see that.
Dog.
Maybe not the tip top of that.
We got some of them.
Yeah, they just make our job harder.
That's awesome. We're at an hour.
Cool.
Awesome. Natalie, thank you for coming and
yeah,
joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
I'm again, I think we're pretty lucky that we have close proximity to Santa Rosa, because there's some cool stuff coming out there. So we'll don our tie-dyes, and the next one will be Mike.
Yeah, where's your Crocs at?
I definitely have those.
He does.
Awesome. Thank you. In the meantime,
thank you guys.
Train hard
and be safe.